Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is a continuation of part 1 I did for my Ricoh GR1 2013 camera. So the first part looks at why I bought the Ricoh GR1 in the first place and my positives of using that camera, and then also as well some of the negatives. But this part in particular features on the biggest issue that I had, which was to do with dust, and then what I've decided to do as a result. It's just worth pointing out here that in the next clip you'll see with me talking about the GR specifically in my office, I had a slight issue with the audio, whereas I'm using a Rode Wireless Go mic for my videos, and when I was setting up for the video that you're about to see, I had this on my desk ready to go, and then I never bothered clipping it on, so that's why there's a slight issue with the noise, so apologies about that. So here we go, let's go back in time. Right, so last but not least, I've decided to leave this particular downside to the end because it's one I'm probably going to be talking about for quite a while, and that is dust. So when I bought this camera, because I'd had the original Ricoh GR, and this does have dust on the sensor, but it's not an insurmountable issue. You know, it's generally not where it's noticeable, and certainly with the modern Lightroom, like clone heel removal tools, you generally can get rid of the dust quite easily in an image. And so I know from that dust in these kinds of cameras where the lens like comes out and then goes back in, it's sucking in, or it has the potential to suck in dust. And especially as well if you put this in a pocket, God knows what's in your pocket, what goes up in your pocket, you know. But if you accidentally kind of open your camera in your pocket in the haste of getting the camera out to take a shot, it might increase the chance of sucking in anything untoward to go onto that sensor. And as it's a fixed lens, you can't easily get into the sensor to clean it from any debris. And so because I knew that this problem could be a problem, you know, you could have some real big debris on it which wouldn't necessarily be in an inconspicuous spot on the sensor. I did ask MPB before I bought it, saying, "Oh, MPB, I'm interested in this camera. Is it clear? Is it free of dust and debris?" And I got an answer back saying, "Yep, it's clean." So I got it, I checked it at the time, and I did notice there was some dust, but it didn't seem that bad at the time. So I carried on using it, and if anyone here is in the UK, you'll know that this year, up until probably July, August time, the weather was not the best, and it was quite grey, quite overcast, so I never really shot that many scenes with just kind of like big blue skies and like landscape, seascapes, and then images as well. We're using f8, f9, etc. apertures. I tend to use the camera in urban environments, so very busy environments, very low wide open apertures as well, just to create some special looking images. So for the first few months, I didn't really have any issues. But in the last couple of months, where we have had some glimpses of summer, where I've had to shoot lower apertures and to capture like landscape, seascape scenes, I did start to notice some quite horrific dust and one particular piece of debris on the sensor, which if it moved, it could have basically rendered a lot of my images unusable, because I think even AI tools would have struggled to remove the particular the particular dust object on the sensor. And I'll just put up a couple of images now of what I took a couple of weeks ago, shooting into the sky, large aperture, because that's when you tend to see what is on your sensor, and you can quite evidently see from this image the marks or the dust which lies on the sensor. And I know full well in 5 months that I've owned this camera that I've treated it with a lot of respect. I generally put it in a case rather than my pocket, just to protect it a little bit more, knowing the fact that it can be a bit susceptible to dust. So I knew for a fact that dust was probably there when I bought it. So it was really disappointing after I'd asked MPP specifically whether it had dust on it, and they came back saying no, it was clear. Where does that leave me, really? So thankfully, with MPP, again not sponsored, but you do get a 6-month warranty with used camera purchases. So I contacted them, and to give them their due, I got a great quick response back from them, and they gave me a few options. Like I was happy with the camera, and I still am. I can work around the downside of not having a good starting position because I've downloaded some other presets which do help. I was still happy with the camera, and I would have more than accepted them to take it in, send it away, get it serviced, get the sensor clean. But apparently that's not a service that they offer with these cameras. So the only options available were either a replacement, with another Ricoh GR Mark 1 camera, or I could change to a different model camera or pay some more money to upgrade it, my original purchase, to a different Ricoh GR. So based on my experiences and the fact that I really do love using this camera, I've decided to pay the extra money to basically upgrade this camera to the GR3. And I've decided as well to go for the Diary Edition GR3, which is basically a different colour scheme. It almost reminds me of the colours, despite never owning a Contax T2, but the colours of a Contax T2, which I think is quite cool and a little bit different from the usual black Ricoh styling. Even though the Ricoh GR3 is quite long in the tooth now, like I think it's probably been out for about four or 5 years, the Diary Edition wasn't actually released until last year, so I'm kind of hoping that it would be less affected by dust. Like I said earlier, I know it's inevitable that dust will get into the sensor, but hopefully a year-old camera would fare a little bit better than an 11-year-old camera. So why opt for a GR3 and not the GR2? Or like I said earlier, for some crazy reason, the GR2 is about the same price as a newer GR3. And I don't really understand why, really, because the GR2 doesn't have that many improvements over the original GR. I think it introduced the ability to transfer files wirelessly. I think it added in a couple more options to change the look of your JPEG images, but I think beyond that it didn't really change the package a great deal. I think the only reasons I can think of is that the downsides to the GR3 is that it's a newer sensor, a new sensor, a new lens, and that did have an impact on the positive film effect. And I think there is people out there that prefer the look of the original positive film effect over the newer positive film effect. So I think that is a reason why the GR2 might be holding its value a lot better than it perhaps should. I think another change as well is that the GR3 is slightly smaller and the gap between the grip and the lens is a little bit tighter, so maybe people didn't like that particular change. The GR3 also loses the flash, so like you can see here, I've just flipped it up. The GR1 and the GR2 do have a flash, but to be honest, I don't particularly use flash in my images, so that's not a great loss to me. And yeah, so I think they're the reasons why I think people might stay with the older GR models, but those aspects didn't really factor into my decision, because I can see the positives, I think, for getting a GR3 over another GR1, GR2 are more favourable to the GR3. What are the positives of upgrading to the GR3 that I can see without actually having the GR3 in my hands? Because obviously I've got to send this back to MPB, and then obviously they'll probably check it over before then sending me the GR3. Another change I think as well between the GR3 and the GR1 and the GR2 is on the back of the camera with the controls. I think they've moved the exposure compensation to a dial around the dials down here. Like this one is fixed, but on the GR3 it's got a wheel, so you can change the exposure compensation. And I think people find that it's too easy to knock, and they just preferred it in its original position. I must admit, I don't use exposure compensation a great deal. I think as well they've done away with some of the other buttons as well to make it a little bit less wide, the GR3. But it's difficult because I haven't got both in my hands. I can't instantly feel what it's going to feel like, the differences. I think as well it's got like a movie button as well, which even though I think from what I've seen the movie quality is much better than the original GR, I don't think it's going to be again worth it over using a different device like a mobile phone, or a modern mobile phone at least. So let's just briefly talk about the other reasons for maybe considering a GR3. I think for me, like at the start of this Ricoh GR journey, like spending £900,000 on an everyday carry camera was unthinkable until I happened across this one for £550. So now I'm in a similar boat where I've only got to pay another £380, £400 to get a GR3. It doesn't sound quite as bad because I've already got in a way the value in this camera. So to just pay a lot more, but not a lot more to get a GR3, it doesn't feel as bad. That's the best I'm gonna say. It doesn't feel as expensive as it is. So as I said before, I'm looking forward to the bump in resolution from 16 to 24, because crucially it will allow for better resolution retention when I crop into 35 and 47. It will make it very usable, because I think even 10 meg at 47mm crop is pretty good, considering I get some really good images from my Canon 5D, which is only a 13 meg sensor. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to using the extra resolution. So hopefully as well we'll have better low light and high ISO performance. Like I said, it can't really get much worse than the original GR and the GRD, so hopefully they've improved the sensor to make images when using high ISO more usable. Another good thing about the GR3 is that Lightroom now have camera matching profiles inside Lightroom, so I believe if you like shoot an image using the positive effect filter, when you put the raw file into Lightroom, it will match the profile to Lightroom's envisioning of that effect. And I'm sure they work with Ricoh hopefully to get it matching good, and only time will tell, and I'll probably cover that, how well it fares in a future video. And I think as well, even though I tend to prefer shooting raw, it's nice that there's more options in the GR3 to change the look of your JPEG images, so there's a lot more fidelity in what you can change. And as such, I have seen there's a lot of recipes out there that people have designed film simulation effects to simulate like film types for instance, or Fujifilm's classic chrome. It'll be fun to try those out, but I'm generally a raw shooter, but it is nice to have those similar profiles effects in Lightroom to choose from, to help basically try and find a good starting position in which I can then add my edits to create the final image. So as I mentioned as well, the GR2's got wireless, so the GR3 will have the wireless ability, so it is nice to be able to free myself from the computer potentially as well, where I could quickly get images from the camera to the social media, for instance, or forums, etc., rather than having to edit the images. Or equally, I can load them onto like a tablet, edit them in Lightroom Mobile, and then upload them to social media that way. But I don't think I'll use that a great deal, but it's nice to have the option. And as I said earlier, the GR3 will be a lot newer than the GR1, so hopefully it will be less susceptible to dust. And I think that brings me on to probably the final point, is the fact that the GR3 has in-body stabilization, which will help you when you're hand holding shots, as long as you're the subject, as long as you have the correct shutter speed to compose the image. The in-body stabilization should help in some areas. And the benefits of having IBIS is that IBIS apparently helps to shake off any dust particles in like a cleaning type regime. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well that feature does improve the dust situation. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Like, I've certainly been very, very happy with the Ricoh GR, and besides the dust issues, I've got like workarounds to get around how the images look when I upload them to the computer. I would definitely, if it wasn't for that dust issue, I'd still be rocking the original Ricoh GR, because it's still, at this price point, which is what I paid for it, a reasonable price to pay for what this camera provides. But because of the dust issue, I'm going to grasp this opportunity that's presented itself to me in order to upgrade my GR to the GR3. So just briefly looking back, it's over the last few months, like I've probably touched on it in previous videos, but my interest in film photography has started to wane of late, and I think it's cameras like the Ricoh GR that have probably compounded the issue, in terms of the fact that I get great results out of this camera, whereas even though I enjoy the process of shooting film, I don't always enjoy the results, and I certainly don't enjoy the failures that I get when I shoot film on occasion. So anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say with the Ricoh GR. It's a little bit quickly cobbled together, this video, because I've obviously got to send this camera back to MPB in order to get my GR3. So what I'll do is I'll just leave you with a montage of the best images that I've captured with the GR Mark 1. So as always, thanks for watching. Bye for now.